Welcome to Soul Stories, where every tale touches the heart. 9-year-old Hania had lived her entire life in a cramped, dimly lit rented room that barely fit a single bed, a small stove, and her wheelchair. Her mother, Sana, worked tirelessly as a house cleaner in several homes across the city. Every morning, long before sunrise, Sana would quietly slip out of the house, making sure not to wake Hania. And every night, she would return exhausted but still smiling, just to make her daughter feel safe. But behind that smile lived a silent storm of fear and struggle. 2 years ago, a tragic road accident had changed their lives forever. Hania, once an active, playful girl who loved running and skipping, lost the ability to walk. The doctors said therapy might help, but it would take years and a lot of money. Money Sana simply didn't have. Yet she never stopped trying. She took on double shifts, worked on weekends, and skipped meals to save every possible rupee for Hania's treatment. Hania knew this, and every time she looked at her mother's tired eyes and roughened hands, she felt a heavy ache in her chest, an ache that whispered she was a burden. One rainy night, everything took a darker turn. Sana was rushing home from work, drenched and shivering. The electricity in their building was out again, and the staircase was slippery from the leaking roof. As she hurried up the stairs, hoping to reach Hania quickly, her foot slipped. There was a loud thud. Sana fell down several steps, landing hard on her arm. Pain shot through her entire body, but her first thought was not herself. It was Hania waiting alone upstairs. She dragged herself up slowly, holding her arm close to her chest, fighting back tears. When she finally reached the room, Hania gasped, "Ami, what happened?" Sana forced a smile. "Bas, slip Hogaya. I'm fine." But she wasn't. Her arm was swelling rapidly, and she could barely move it. The next morning, they learned it was a deep sprain, possibly a small fracture. That same day, their landlord knocked on the door. His voice was cold as he reminded them of the pending rent, warning that if they didn't pay soon, they would be forced to leave. As the door shut, Hania saw her mother's shoulders shake. Sana sat on the floor and buried her face in her uninjured hand, trying to hide her tears. That Hania's heart broke. She wanted to hug her mother, to help her, to take away her pain. But all she could do was sit in her wheelchair and watch helplessly. For the first time, she whispered a fear she had always hidden inside. Maybe Ami's life would be easier without me. She didn't know that life was about to change, just not in the way she expected. While Hania and her mother struggled through another difficult morning, somewhere across the city, Zaydan Malik sat in the back seat of his black SUV, reviewing documents for his foundation. At just 32, he had become one of the youngest billionaires in the country, known not just for his success, but for his generosity. Orphanages, free schools, and medical camps all carried his foundation's name. But despite all the wealth, Zaydan often felt something missing in his life, something he couldn't quite name. That day, he had decided to visit a poor community where an old school building was falling apart. His plan was to rebuild it with modern classrooms, computers, and a playground. He wanted to see the area personally, not just through reports. As his SUV turned into the narrow, muddy lanes of the community, the car slowed. The rain from the previous night had left puddles everywhere, and children walked barefoot through the dirt. Zaydan watched quietly from the window, until something caught his eye. A little girl in a wheelchair was struggling to cross a muddy path. Her small hands gripped the wheels tightly, pushing with all her strength. The wheels kept getting stuck in the mud. Her school notebook, completely soaked, rested on her lap. Still, she protected it with her hands as if it were the most precious thing she owned. Something tugged at Zaydan's heart. "Stop the car," he ordered softly. The driver parked immediately. Zaydan stepped out, his expensive shoes sinking slightly into the mud, but he didn't care. His eyes stayed fixed on the girl. Hania looked up, startled to see a well-dressed man with an umbrella walking toward her. She tried to push her chair faster, embarrassed, but the wheels slipped again. Zaydan gently held the wheelchair to steady it. "Where is your mother?" he asked in a soft tone, carefully lowering himself to her eye level. Hania hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper as she pointed toward their building. Zaydan followed her gaze. Standing in the doorway was Sana, holding her injured arm as she tried to sweep the water that had leaked into the hallway. She winced with every movement but kept working, hoping no one noticed her pain. But Zaydan noticed. He took a slow breath, feeling something stirred deep within him, something he had not felt in years. Compassion, concern, and a strange pull toward this small family he had never met before. As Hania watched him silently, Zaydan understood instantly that this encounter was not an accident, that it was a sign, one that would soon change all of their lives. Would he help them? Yes, but he didn't yet know just how deeply this family would touch his heart. After meeting Hania and Sanaa, Zaydan Malik couldn't sleep that night. The image of a little girl struggling in her wheelchair and a mother hiding her pain behind a brave smile replayed in his mind again and again. He had met thousands of people through his charity work, but something about this mother-daughter pair stayed with him, like their pain had quietly wrapped itself around his heart. He spent half the night reading their file, which his foundation team prepared after his visit. Unpaid rent, medical bills, therapy sessions stopped due to lack of funds. Sanaa's injury worsening because she refused treatment she couldn't afford. By early morning, Zaydan had made a decision, not out of pity, not out of charity, but because something inside him whispered that this family deserved a chance life had never given them. The next afternoon, he returned to their worn-down building. Sanaa was startled to see the billionaire standing at her door again. She quickly tried to hide her injured arm behind her dupatta, but Zaydan gently stopped her. "You don't have to hide your pain," he said softly. Sanaa lowered her eyes, embarrassed. Hania, sitting in her wheelchair, looked between them with quiet curiosity. Zaydan inhaled deeply, as if gathering courage. Then he pulled out a folder, not filled with money or medical reports, but legal guardianship papers. Sanaa's eyes widened. Hania blinked in confusion. Zaydan knelt down beside Hania's wheelchair, bringing himself to her level. His voice was gentle, yet filled with sincerity. "Hania, I want to adopt you so I can give you the life you deserve. Proper therapy, education, a home where you never feel afraid again." For a moment, silence hung in the room. Hania's lips trembled. Her tiny fingers gripped the sides of her wheelchair as her eyes filled with tears, not of joy, but of fear. She shook her head slowly. Then, in a broken whisper, she said words that pierced the air like a knife. "Please don't adopt me. Adopt my mom instead." Zaydan froze. Sanaa gasped, covering her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. Hania continued, her voice trembling but firm. "She needs help more than I do. She works all day. She cries at night when she thinks I'm asleep. She skips food so I can eat. She saved me. Please, please save her. Her innocence, her selflessness, her love, it broke everyone in the room." Even Zaydan felt his throat tighten. He had expected fear, maybe confusion, but not this. Not a child willing to give up her own chance at a better life for her mother. And in that moment, Zaydan realized, this wasn't just a girl who needed help. This was a girl who loved with a depth most adults never reached, and her words would change everything he thought he was going to do. Zaydan sat silently after hearing Hania's heartbreaking words. For a long moment, he could not speak. Her tiny voice, soft, trembling, yet filled with incredible strength, echoed in his mind that a child who had nothing was still willing to give up everything for her mother. It moved something deep within him. He looked at Sanaa, who was now quietly sobbing. She wasn't crying out of fear, but out of overwhelming love for her daughter. And Zaydan realized with absolute clarity, separating them would shatter their world. So, he made a decision he hadn't planned for. The very next day, a car arrived outside their small building. Sanaa worriedly stepped outside, thinking it might be the landlord again. Instead, she saw the same black SUV and Zaydan stepping out with a warm smile. Behind him were helpers carrying boxes, clothes, essentials, food, medicines. Sanaa shook her head, overwhelmed. "Sir, Hamitna Sabkais." But Zaydan gently interrupted. "You're not taking help. You're starting a new life." Hania's wheelchair rolled forward, her eyes wide with hope and confusion. "A new life?" she whispered. Zaydan crouched down and said softly, "Both of you are coming with me." Sanaa's breath caught. Hania's heart raced. He wasn't adopting one of them. He was taking both into his protection. When they reached Zaydan's mansion, Hania couldn't believe her eyes. The house was huge, bright, and filled with warmth, not cold and silent like she imagined rich houses would be. The staff greeted them kindly, and one of the rooms was already prepared just for her, with soft blankets, a study table, and even a ramp for her wheelchair. Sana kept touching her injured arm nervously, afraid someone would scold her for ruining the perfect floor with dripping water from her clothes. But instead, a doctor was waiting to treat her, and a gentle house manager told her, "You're safe here. You don't have to hide your pain anymore." For the first time in a long while, Sana felt her chest loosen. She didn't have to pretend to be strong every second. She didn't have to choose between food, rent, and medicine. Zaydan gave her a job she could easily manage, organizing charity files from home, something that didn't hurt her arm and allowed her to stay close to Hania. A week later, Zaydan invited them both to a small garden ceremony. Simple, quiet, meaningful. Hania sat in her new wheelchair, dressed in a soft pink dress. Sana stood behind her, hands still trembling with disbelief. Zaydan placed his hands gently on their heads and said, "I am not adopting one of you. I am adopting this family." Sana broke down in tears, this time tears of relief, gratitude, and hope. Hania looked up at him, her eyes shining. For the first time since her accident, her smile reached her eyes. She didn't just gain a guardian. She gained a father, a home, a family. And for the first time in years, both mother and daughter felt truly, completely safe.